Welcome to the first live stream of 2023. So, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to start off talking about when are what I would consider to be the best times to do cardio. You know, is it before training? Is it after training? Is it on separate days? What about fasted? All that stuff I want to cover. And then once I'm done with that section, I'll go into the live Q&A portion of things. So if you have questions, just leave them while I'm talking and I'll get into them right afterwards. As of right now, I literally have no questions. So if it ends up just being a quick, just talk about this topic kind of a thing, no problem. This was actually the only question I did get, and I thought it was a great topic to actually make the actual topic of the video. So I'll get into that. First though, just somebody let me know if the sound's working, can see me okay, and everything's going just fine. And we'll get into it. So first I want to preface that when I talk about the best times to do cardio, I'm making the assumption that we're talking about with regards to improving body composition. So that's how I'm going to go about it in this video. Obviously, that's not everyone's goal, but most of the people that are watching my channel, that is their goal most of the time. But if you have some kind of goal, like you want to improve your endurance better, you know, your cardiovascular activity, health, things like that, then it might be a little bit different. But in this case, thank you, Teresa, we're talking about if you're trying to improve your body composition. So jumping right into it, to me, the best time to do cardio, if you want to get the most out of it, is on separate days of your training. So whether that be on a normal rest day or just any kind of day you're not doing actual strength training, depending on how many days of the week you're doing it, this might be a little bit easier or more difficult. And the reason I say that is because in those instances, you're going to have more energy to perform well during the cardio session. If you're doing strength training and cardio during the same session or even the same day, then you're just not going to have quite as much energy to do that. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a huge deal. I'm just talking about what's most optimal. And one thing you have to always consider, I hear optimal a lot, and I talk about optimal a lot, but I think oftentimes optimal gets confused. Optimal does not mean necessary. Optimal just means like basically doing everything you can to get the most out of whatever you're doing. So just because something's optimal doesn't mean that something's not as optimal, doesn't mean you can't still get great results. Most of the time you can. So I want to be very clear about that. That's why I want to just really stress that, because I don't want you to get that confused. And I'll talk more about that towards the end of this. So that's why I would say on your days that you're not training, you're just going to have more energy. You're going to perform better. You're going to get more out of your cardio, and you get a little bit more benefit out of it. But does that mean it's the right thing for you? Not necessarily. I'll get to that. The next best time would be after you're training later in the day on a separate session. So whether you trained in the morning and then, you know, went and fueled up, got more food in you, went about your day, and then in the evening went back and did your cardio. All right, now you've had a chance to replenish glycogen storage. So your glycogen is basically the storage form of carbohydrates, and this is why when your carbohydrates are low, you lose energy, because it's your body's preferred energy source. You consume carbs. Your body breaks that down into glucose, and that glucose is stored in your muscles and your liver in the form of glycogen. When you exercise, especially certain muscles, those muscles utilize that glycogen to perform the task at hand. So if you're doing bicep curls, you're using glycogen out of your biceps to perform those exercises. So you're going to use some of that up during your training. If you then go and get a post-workout meal, you get a bunch of carbs in, you start replenishing some of that glycogen, now you have more full stores for later on when you do your cardio. So you're gonna have a bit more energy. Whereas if you go train and then do cardio right after, you're gonna be a bit more depleted. Again, won't have quite as much energy. And whether you do cardio, rest, and then training isn't quite as important. Let me rephrase that. Whether you do cardio first, then rest, then do training, or training, then rest, then do cardio, means much less than if you're doing them back to back. But I still would recommend doing the training first, then resting, then doing the cardio later. Again, these are probably not very realistic for most people. Most people aren't going to want to go to the gym twice per day to get their exercise in, myself included. I would not do this. No way. Doesn't mean it's wrong for everybody, but I just want to, lay that out there. Now, after that, the next best time would be after your training. So if you're going to do your strength training and your cardio during the same time at the gym, during the same session, do your training first and then cardio after. And that was the specific question. Let me make sure I get this right. Joy was saying that she likes to walk or cycle 30 to 40 minutes after lifting 3 to 4 days per week. And was kind of asking, okay, well, should we do it before or after or on rest days? So if you're doing it during the same session, definitely recommend doing it afterwards. And this is because the training is just so much more important for improving your body composition. I mean, it's not even close. Like, I know it seems counterintuitive, and most of the time, most people get caught up in cardio. But training is way more beneficial. Even if you don't care about like having like visible muscle, muscle size, muscle definition, even if you don't care about that, you still get way more benefit out of training than you do cardio. First of all, ladies, you don't have to worry about getting bulky. It's not going to happen by accident. There's just no way. In fact, really, if you did everything you could to get bulky and to build as much muscle as possible to get a look that you think that you don't want, it's probably gonna get you the look you want, because it's just very difficult to build muscle. It doesn't happen like just by accident. If only if it was there, if it were that easy, right? So you don't have to worry about that. And when you train, so here's part of it. Yes, you'll build more muscle. The more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism is, so you burn more calories even at rest. Not only that, but there's an afterburn effect of training that you don't really get with cardio. With cardio, yes, typically you do burn more calories during the exercise itself than strength training most of the time. That's true. But that's just looking at that is short-sighted. When you do cardio, your heart rate comes up, your body burns more calories because of that. Your heart rate returns back to normal once you're done, and then you stop burning extra calories. With strength training, yes, your heart rate will still come up, maybe not as much. You'll burn some more calories during the exercise, but not only do you get the calories burned from the exercise, but your body continues to burn more calories at rest for up to even 48 hours post-training as your body tries to recover from the stimulus. Going through that recovery process is getting you extra calorie burn that you don't get with cardio. So build more muscle, helps with body composition, helps with actual metabolism in the long run, helps with burning more calories in the short term for a longer period of time. It's just way more beneficial. Like it's literally not even close. It doesn't mean that cardio is worthless. There's a time and place, and you're probably gonna have to do some to get where you want to be, but don't sacrifice your training for cardio. It's a mistake, and I see this all the time. Time was short, so I didn't do my training, but I got my cardio in. Backwards. Totally backwards. If time is short and you have to pick between one or the other, get the training in and make sure you're training hard and with intensity. Those last few reps should be very challenging. It should be, the weight should be really slowing down significantly. Don't leave so much in the tank, and make sure you're getting that good stimulus. So because of how much more important training is than cardio, if you're doing them in the same session, do the training first where you have more energy to do what's more important, then do the cardio afterwards. You don't want to fatigue yourself with cardio to then do the training. So that would be like the next best time to do it. The worst time to me would be before the training. So now, with all that being said, so let's go down the list of order of importance, or not importance, but of what's optimal. Best on separate days of your training. Second best, same day of your training, but during different times of the day where you've had time to recover. Next best would be after your training, and worst would be before your training. All right. So with all that being said, does that mean that you should always go towards the top of that list? No, you got to look at your schedule, what makes most important to you, what is most ideal for your schedule, what's more realistic, like what are you actually going to adhere to? Just because something's optimal doesn't mean that you should do it if you're going to end up hating it and end up giving up. Much like I say all the time with a diet, like you can't just do something just because you think it's going to be the best way to do it, even though you have no chance of sustaining it in the long run. Same thing goes here. So for me personally, good morning, retired 2019. So for me personally, I've always, oh, well, not always, but almost always for several years now, I've done my cardio after my training, and that's when I do it. Regardless of what phase I'm in and how much cardio I'm doing, I'm going to do it while I'm at the gym with getting my training done. And that's just simply because I don't want to have to go back to the gym more times than necessary. So like if I'm training 4 days per week, even if I'm only doing 10 minutes of cardio afterwards, I'm in a building phase and everything, I'm going to do it then. Even when I was on prep, and I was doing obscene amounts of cardio, like an hour a day, 5 days a week. I was still doing it after my training because I just don't want to have to go back. I'd rather get all the work done while I'm at the gym and then just go home and be done with it rather than going back more times than necessary. So even if I'm training 3 days a week, 4 days a week, I'd rather be at the gym 3 to 4 days than 6 days because I'm going back to do more cardio. You know what I mean? The travel time and everything else is just not worth it to me. Is it worth it to you? You'll have to make that determination yourself. But now, one last thing I want to talk about, I believe, on here. Two things. One, always take at least one full rest day. Even if you want to, separate your cardio and your training on separate days, I strongly recommend at least one full rest day. None of this every single day, no days off mentality. Your body, it has to recover. Your progress comes from your recovery. It's not what you do in the gym. Obviously that's part of it, but it's not all of it. What you do in the gym, you can only do as well as how well your body recovers from that. And if you're going every day and never taking any rest, and you're not getting any sleep, and you're stressed out beyond belief, and you're not fueling the body well, you're not going to recover well, and you're not going to see the progress you want. And if you're training every single day and you're doing cardio on top of it, that's pretty suboptimal. Your body needs to recover. So at a minimum, even if you're splitting it up, take at least one full rest day. The other thing I want to mention is a lot of times the question of fasted cardio comes up. Should I do fasted cardio? Is that better? And a lot of people say you're going to burn more fat by doing your cardio fasted because it doesn't have to go through like the glycogen or any carbs that are in your system before getting to the fat stores. And you know what? They're right, but they're also wrong. And let me explain what I mean by that. They're right that during the fasted cardio itself, you will burn more fat during the exercise if you're fasted. I don't deny that whatsoever. This has been shown in research time and time again. However, over the 24-hour period, you don't burn any more fat whether you're fasted or not. I want to say that again. Whether you're fasted or not, the amount of fat that you will burn in a 24-hour period does not matter whether your cardio was fasted or not fasted. You burn more fat fasted, but then you'll burn less through the rest of the day when you're eating, right? Or you burn less when you're fasted, but then you'll burn more because you're consuming less of your food later in the day. It's always the big picture, not just a snapshot in time that matters. So don't feel like you have to do fasted cardio because it's going to get you a better result. It's not. However, again, if you like fasted cardio, if you feel better doing it that way, if it's something you enjoy, do it. That's great. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it's not magic. I'm just saying it's not going to get you a better result than any other way. So don't force yourself to do it just because you feel like you need to do it. And I think a lot of times when people say that they do fasted cardio and they see better results for it because of that, it's oftentimes because they end up consuming less calories throughout the day. One thing that can happen is, normally you would wake up and then you would eat something and then go about your day and then do your exercise later at some point. Well, if you wake up and now you don't eat because you're going to do your morning cardio and you're getting your fasted cardio in, now you could in theory be skipping that first meal. Now you're not eating those calories that you would normally eat and therefore eat less calories throughout the rest of the day. And now you see better results, but it's not because of the fasted cardio. It's because you're consuming less calories. So always something to consider. So, all right, looks like we got a few questions here, so let's get into it. If you have any questions on the cardio side of things, let me know, or any questions in general, because I'm going to jump into the live Q&A. Looks like there's not a whole lot, but I'll handle whatever comes in, and we'll take it from there. So let me get a sip of coffee, and we'll hit it. All right, let's see. Just began weight training and did my arms the other day, and I'm in extreme pain, cannot move my arm without it hurting. What I do wrong? Well, I can't say for certain. And let me know, my suspicion is perhaps you hadn't been lifting at all. You know, perhaps, okay, the new year came and you're getting into a lifting program here, and instead of easing into things, you just went like balls to the walls right away, right? Like just went crazy and just obscene amounts of volume, and it was just too much for your body, and now it's super sore because of it. That's what I'm hoping anyways, because that would be much better than some sort of injury. Well, you know, if you did something where you actually injured yourself, that's a different story, and obviously I can't diagnose that. I couldn't do it online, and I couldn't do it anyways. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physical therapist or anything, but so of course, if you're really concerned about it, get it checked out and rule out any structural damage. I can never say that word, structural. But my hope is you just did too much too fast, and you need to let it heal up here, and then make sure you ease into it more rather than doing too much too soon. And especially if you're new to training, like doing a lot isn't better. Like more is not always better. Better is better. And if you're new to training or had a long layoff and then are coming back, and again, I'm making some assumptions here, you don't need to do a lot of volume to see results. And in fact, more volume will not produce a better result, but it will potentially run you down more and make it harder for you to lift and get you a worse result. And then not only that, but down the road, as you have to increase volume, as you're going to have to do to continue to see progress, it's called progressive overload. You have to keep doing more over time to keep seeing results, and that's going to slow down regardless. If you're doing obscene amounts of volume right off the bat, what are you going to do to make progress later on when you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, 5 years, right? Like if you just go crazy right off the bat and all of a sudden you're just doing, 6 days, in the gym for 3 hours lifting weights, what are you going to do 5 years from now to keep seeing progress, right? So just always things to consider. The least amount of volume that you can do while seeing good results is kind of what you want to do to a degree, because then you can start upping the volume over time when necessary. So I don't know that it's necessarily because you didn't stretch. In fact, there's kind of more and more evidence coming out that pre-workout stretching especially is not generally beneficial for actually reducing injury likelihood. If you're going to do it at all, it's usually better after your training. Before training, you're better off doing more like dynamic type of stretching. So, arm swings and circles and leg swings and things like that. Now, if you have some sort of imbalance where you need to stretch one side, then that makes more sense, but that would need to be addressed by a physical therapist who can put you through different tests of range of motion and look for movement pattern dysfunctions and things like that. But my guess is, one, you either did too much right away, or two, something's wrong with your form, and you want to take a look at that. Don't be afraid to video yourself in the gym and take a look at things, even if you're not like a quote unquote expert on form. You want to make sure that it looks okay, and a lot of times it can look a lot different than you think. So, like, for instance, when I think way back, I used to think I had this great squat that, it got super strong, and I was throwing 4 plates on and moving it, and it was like, man, I'm getting so strong, and it's so great and everything. And then I finally took a video of it, and I was like, oh, crap. I'm that guy. I'm the half squatter. And I thought I was going nice and deep, but I wasn't. That can go for anything. Like, it can really stand out sometimes. But yeah, definitely make sure you're really focusing on the muscle that you're using. So in bicep curls, really focus on using the bicep itself and not just moving the weight and not jerking it around and using joints and stuff. You want to really try to isolate that muscle as much as possible. Slow and controlled, more weight is not necessarily better unless it's under good control. And yeah, I mean, I would definitely start there. And okay, so that's going to keep you in a fixed path, but that doesn't mean you can't, load up way too much weight and jerk it around and stuff too. So without knowing more, I can't say it. Those are just some of my suspicions. I struggle with doing cardio first because I prefer to work out early in the morning and the gym is usually crowded. Do you think it's important to walk 10,000 steps a day every day? No, not necessarily. It just depends on it's all about your calories in versus calories out, and I'm assuming you're going based off of like a fat loss phase here. So for some people, they get 10,000 steps a day just doing their job, whereas for other people, like to get that 10,000 steps a day, they'd have to go out walking for like 2 hours a day, so it really depends a lot. There's definitely a lot of evidence. I've done this in a video in the past that people who average more steps a day tend to have not only less body fat, but lower all-cause mortality, and they're just healthier in general. So movement's super important. And it basically just kept getting better and better when it went from like 4,000 to 6,000 to 8,000 to 10,000. There was just more and more improvements all the time. So, but also you have to consider like, where are you at? What phase are you in? What are your goals? All that type of stuff. So like if you want to use walking to create more of a deficit going into a fat loss phase down the road, if you're in a reverse and you're averaging 10,000 steps a day during your reverse, sure, you'll be able to eat more calories and everything. But now, if you want to increase your steps to help create more calorie burn to help create the deficit down the road when you go into your cutting phase, now you have to go above and beyond your 10,000 steps because that's your body's baseline. That's what your body's used to now. Whereas if you're averaging like 5,000 steps a day, well, now you can increase based off of that to help. So it just kind of depends. Are you just looking to roughly maintain? And you just want kind of an active, healthy lifestyle? Then that can be great. But it's not necessarily important, but it can be very helpful, and it's just healthy in general to get a lot of movement in. And this is something that has really stood out to me over the years. One of the biggest differences in those who tend to not only get better results, but just be leaner in general, they're just more active. A lot of the people that I see that really struggle to lose weight, that have a higher body fat content in general, just not very active. Like literally sometimes people average like 1,000 steps a day. Like it's almost nothing. It's like just basically getting out of bed and walking around to the bathroom and to the living room and stuff, which, as I've talked about in previous videos, it's easy to do nowadays. It's so easy to be inactive. You can get your groceries delivered. You can order everything you could ever want on Amazon. You can, basically, you can work from home. You don't even have to go into the office. It's like there's almost no reason for some people to ever leave the house now other than forcing themselves to get activity in. So, trying to get yourself more active in any way, I think is really helpful. And I have a very inactive job, but I still usually average 4,000 to 5,000 steps a day if I'm not trying to get more steps in, and really that's just from going to the gym and going to the store and stuff like that. But that's my very long-winded way to say it's not important necessarily to get 10,000 steps. There's no like magic number, but to a degree more is generally better depending on what phase you're in. All right, is there anything else? Did want to mention a couple things here. If you're looking to start things off right this year and you want to get some online coaching to help bring you to your goals, head to my website, ColinDeWaayTraining.com, head to the coaching section, and under here you'll see a place to sign up now. And if you click that, it'll bring you to the spot here to fill out an application. What I'll do is I will get an email. I will then record that in a video, respond to you and send it to you. If you don't see it, sometimes it goes into spam, and make sure you check there. And if you still don't hear anything, you send me a message on Instagram, Colin DeWaay, or Facebook, Colin DeWaay Training. I've been posting a lot more on Facebook lately. If you haven't been following me there, and get a hold of me. And it does come with a 30-day money-back guarantee, meaning that you can try it out, start, and if within 30 days you feel like, hey, this just isn't for me, it's not my style, not my cup of tea, you can request a refund, and I'll give it to you, no questions asked. So it's literally risk-free if you want to see what it's all about. My goal is to lose 38 pounds and reduce my body fat from 28% to 20%. Yeah, so getting all those steps in is going to help with that. I don't know what you're doing now, but definitely doing more steps than what you're doing now is going to help with that. Keep in mind, you're going to hit plateaus, and I think that's what my next video is about. I'm trying to remember. One of these ones coming up, but I have plenty of videos, of course, on how to do that. And one of the best ones that I talk about all the time is this one. Let me find it. Just can never find myself because I'm not important enough. let me put my name in there. This one right here. How to adjust macros for fat loss, easy weight loss guide. This one, yes, it's a bit longer video, but it's literally got everything. It's got how to find your maintenance calories. It has how to start off how many calories to drop, how much cardio to do, how to do things like refeeds and diet breaks, how to make adjustments when you hit weight loss plateaus, like literally everything that you could ever possibly want to know about a fat loss phase is in that video. So definitely recommend that. However, basically, you're going to see results for a while, and then your body's going to adapt. You're going to hit plateaus, and you're going to need to adjust. And once that is my next video, I'm almost sure. And once that happens, now you need to drop calories more, bring some activity up again. So you can't just like slam your calories down and do tons of cardio right off the bat, because then when you do hit those plateaus, where are you going to go from there, right? So you gotta have to make sure you have room to make adjustments. You basically want to eat as many calories as you can and do as little activity as you can. Activity meaning more cardio based. Your training should stay the same regardless of whether you're cutting or building. Yeah, you want to eat as much as you can and do as little cardio as you can so that you can keep adjusting and keep making progress. It's a long-term thing, right? And will you lose all the 38 pounds in one fat loss attempt? Maybe, not necessarily. I find a lot of times it's just the body's too adaptive and it's too hard to reach your goals in one attempt. And this kills people. Like, it just kills them because this mentality of, well, if I can't get all the way where I want to be, then there's no point. And then just quitting and then just going back to the way things were and gaining weight rapidly, it's just a killer. It's like, no, okay, you didn't get where you wanted to be. That's okay. You will, but now you stop. Now you reverse diet, get your hormones and metabolism in a better spot, get your calories up, focus on all the benefits that come with it. And then down the road, you go back into a fat loss phase, but from a much better position than if you just said F it and then just kept yo-yo dieting. And then you chip away at a time. So let's just say, for instance, you lose 20 pounds, but then you gain maybe 5 to 10 back, and then you lose 20 pounds, and you gain 5 to 10 back. Over time, you're going to get down where you want to be. And each time you're going to build some more muscle, and your body composition is going to look better even at the same weights as before because of that. So it's always about thinking that big picture and being okay with taking it in phases. But yeah, I mean, activity is super helpful in a fat loss phase, and I really recommend walking. A lot of walking is great. It's just it's easy to recover from. It it doesn't beat you down the way more intense forms of cardio do, especially when you factor in that your energy is going to be low. You're going to be training. You're going to be doing probably other forms of cardio. Your calories and carbs are going to be low. I explained earlier in this video about how carbs are your energy source. You're not going to have that. You're going to have less energy. So doing something that doesn't beat you up so much is really beneficial. The main drawback of walking is it's time, right? It takes a lot more time than like if you're doing something like a HIIT cardio. You can do a quick session, get in and out and burn the same amount of calories, but again, it can crush you. And then what ends up happening too is you get so run down that you move around a lot less throughout the day because you're so exhausted, and you end up taking less steps than you would have before. And now you just kind of end up trading calories burned and getting nowhere. So it's just good to always look at everything. Yeah, so I mean, if you've already hit plateaus, you're already at 10,000 steps. I mean, yeah, you could try to increase them more. Again, it's just a lot more time. But then, okay, you're gonna have to reduce your nutrition and maybe get some other forms of cardio in there on top of it. But also, like I said, don't be afraid to switch phases. If your calories get too low and your cardio is too high and it's just not realistic, or your body's giving you all the warning signs that it's done, or if just mentally you're over it, then switch phases. Don't let it get to the point where you just completely destroy yourself because you feel like you have to get all the way there at one time. Be okay with being patient and taking in phases. Remember, I say it all the time, but it's true. It's got to be a lifestyle. This is stuff you have to do for the rest of your life if you want to keep any result you have. And you always want to play that long game and think big picture. The more patience you can have, not only are the better results you're going to get in the long run, but you're just going to be happier. Like, the more pressure you put on the speed of the result and needing to get the right away, the more likely you are to be disappointed and to get frustrated and to just find yourself in these positions where you just get so mentally overwhelmed and frustrated that it just destroys you. And once you take that pressure away, it really puts you in a better place mentally. And a guy by the name of Paul Mort had this quote that he said a long time ago that stuck with me forever, and it's, there is no happy ending to an unhappy journey. Like, I love that, because what do most people do when they start a fat loss goal, especially with like a New Year's resolution or whatever. And that's probably not you. I know it's not you, but even if it is somebody else watching, it's like, it's just this mad dash to the finish line. It's just like, well, what should I do to get the weight off? It's just, okay, like, let me starve myself and, you know, cut out everything that I enjoy and crush myself with extra cardio to get this result. But it's like, if you're miserable the entire time, it's not going to end well. You're going to rebel against it hard, right? So you want to do things that are as least restrictive as possible to get where you want to be, and, you know, be patient with it. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to do things you don't want to do. You're gonna, like, it's going to be hard. There's going to be challenges, but you don't want to make it more hard than it needs to be, and you definitely don't want to just make yourself miserable the whole time. So patience, patience, patience. And thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that a lot. It means a lot to me. So you're very welcome. All right, anything else? I'll hang out for a minute here. And yeah, like I mentioned, I have been way more active on Facebook lately. I'm still doing Instagram. I am. However, I just find it so much easier for myself to do Facebook, because the biggest problem I have on Instagram is, you know, finding pictures to match and taking, you know, pictures to put the caption in. And then there's a character limit, and people complain that it's too long and this and that. And I don't get any of that on Facebook. So I can just say what I want to say and not have to worry about it. So I've been much more active on there. If you're not following me, it is Colin DeWaay Training on Facebook. All right, is that it? I think that must be it. So if there's anything else, of course, you know where to find me. Leave a comment anywhere on my YouTube channel, or send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I'm happy to help anywhere I can. Hopefully you have a wonderful weekend. And remember, if you're doing a New Year's thing, patience, patience, patience. Gotta be a lifestyle. And I will have a new video up for you, you know, early next week, most likely. And I will talk to you later. Thank you.